Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here at Locked On Nationals podcast. Joining us today is Max Rayman from District on Deck. We finally have some Nationals offseason signings to talk about now that the lockout is officially over. We'll get to those and more coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Joining us today, it is Max Rayman of District on Deck. Max, it's a pleasure to be finally talking about movement, right? Off-season movement, players being signed, rumors. It's just good to have that back as opposed to CBT figures, arbitration pool numbers, shifts, DH, all that stuff. It's good to be talking about players now.
Absolutely. First off, thanks for having me back, man. And I was wrong. Last time we talked I said earliest the season would start was June. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that I was wrong. And there's no way I thought that they would only miss 2 weeks of the season. So good on them for getting their stuff together.
Yeah, and then it was good to see. I saw your piece on District on Deck about when is Nationals opening day. It's like a great reminder that opening day, there was some confusion about, okay, when is this actually going to start? Now the just to clear this up, everybody, they're going to make those games up they missed in the form of double headers later on in the season, correct?
Yeah. They're gonna do it towards the end of this middle and end of the season,
Right.
I believe is what I read. But yeah, all those games will be make up and 9-inning doubleheaders, which is good. No more of that phony 7-inning stuff.
I was actually just talking about this earlier with somebody. I enjoyed it just because I thought I thought that much baseball in a day, especially with the weird off seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm you know me, I'm such a person who's so concerned about injuries and whatnot. And look, when you cover the Nationals, it's hard not to be, right?
I know.
It's hard not to be concerned about guys dropping like flies. But yeah, so 9 doubleheaders, which is they're going to get the full thing in, which is exciting. And the Nationals have made some moves, right? The big move that I think everybody saw is that the Nats brought in Steve Cishek, who is a really bigger dude, right-hander who has been around for a long time. If you're a Nationals fan, you probably remember him most from, and this is dating him a little bit, but he was on the Florida Marlins, Max.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Marlins when they became the Florida Marlins, became the Miami Marlins. That was the beginning of his career. He was with Florida / Miami up until 2015, and then he's bounced around from St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa, Chicago, the Chicago White Sox, and the Cubs, also both those teams, and then also in Los Angeles last year, 74 appearances last season. So at a pretty healthy workload, 68 innings. He threw 3.42 earned run average, and it was a season where this guy was pretty successful, and that's somebody the Nationals. I quote tweeted your thought about this. Any healthy major league caliber pitcher in the pen is welcome. This guy's not just major league caliber; he's actually a pretty decent reliever as well.
Oh, absolutely. I was very excited when I saw that they signed Steve Cishek because we've been saying this for what feels like a century. Nats need bullpen help, always have, probably always will. Last year didn't work out. Now they get back to the drawing board, and Cishek is a great place to start. 35-year-old veteran. But one thing to keep in mind on is last year he walked 41 batters. His walk per 9 was at 5.4, which was a career high.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you got to look at that. If he walked that many guys and he still had a 3.44 ERA, he was able to do a good job of limiting the amount of guys he let on, which is something to keep an eye on. Still had 64 strikeouts, which was very good. His 8.0, so he had a 8.4 strikeout per 9, which was his highest since 2018, not counting 2020 because he only made like 20 innings that year. So I think he's going to be a very good arm back of the bullpen, probably a 7th inning guy. and he's going to be a veteran, someone that can help the guys like the Kyle Finnegans and the Tanner Rainey's and the I'm forgetting his
Mason
name, but
Thompson
Mason
also.
Thompson. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
where I was going. So, I think this is a good move. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, we all know he's not going to last the season on the Nats. He's going to be traded at the deadline. He's going to be flipped for prospects, and he's going to help bolster the farm. So, I mean, it's a good move to start.
Yeah, and you just hope he pitches well. Look, this is a guy who's been pretty good throughout his entire career. Relies on three pitches mostly: sinker, slider, and a four-seam fastball. Throws a sinker 44% of the time. Throws the slider 38, close to 39, and then throws the four-seamer about 17% of the time. Does have a changeup, but really doesn't use it a whole lot, to be honest. And so this is somebody that, once again, is a veteran. Had a very good performance. 2020 was difficult for him, but this is a guy that, if you look across his career, he's a strong reliever. This is a guy that somebody, like you mentioned, you can rely on towards the back. And last season, his 68 innings that he worked was the most that he'd worked since 2018. It was the third most he'd worked in his entire career, right? And so that's a positive sign. Somebody that, even at the age of 35, and even after being in the league now since 2010, somebody that's still producing at a high level, and that's what the Nationals need, right? They've gotten proven commodities before, right? Brad Hand, but that was a little bit the higher
Mhm.
end. Will Harris, those guys haven't necessarily panned out for the Nationals, but this is not one of you're right. This is a 1-year deal, kind of no harm, no foul, and even the Brad Hand one was almost no harm, no foul, right?
Riley
Even though
Adams.
Brad Hands sucked, right? He turned into Riley Adams. And so they were good to go in that spot. So I'm with you on the bullpen part of it. They need to make a few more signings just like this.
Mhm.
Obviously, bullpens are usually, at least for the Nationals' sake, a bullpen of their team's aspirations and caliber is going to be a combination of young guys, maybe guys that you think could be starters or, spot starters like Apollo Espino, right? Guys like that, or I mentioned young guys like Mason Thompson, maybe they bring up, totally blanking on his name, lefty Seth Romero, right? But,
Mhm.
we'll see.
He's in
He
trouble.
did have
Gabe
some,
Klobosits.
Gabe Klobosits, right? So it's going to be a combination of guys. Kyle Finnegan is actually not that young, but he's, in terms of major league service time, he is a younger guy. So it's going to be a mixture. I'm not sure about you. I'd like to see a couple more signings like this, and I also like to see another lefty in the pen as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no way they can roll with the bullpen they have right now and expect the bullpen to be consistent. I mean, they finished second to last in ERA last year and second to last in FIP. And they didn't make any major moves to fix it. If anything, they just lost some of the guys. So you got Tanner Rainey. Will Harris is back, but who knows if he'll be able to
Yeah,
throw
right.
any innings. And Rainey, who struggled.
I'm going to interrupt you real fast. Like, do you even
Yeah.
count Will Harris? When I think about the rotation for the Nats this year, right? Pitching, like starting rotation.
Mhm.
There's a part of me that's like not even almost counting Steven Strasburg. In the same way, when I look at the bullpen, I'm not even counting Will Harris at this point in time. It's hard to do when a guy's been banged up like he has.
I agree. I did see Jesse Doherty had a tweet today saying that Will Harris threw a bullpen and Steven Strasburg threw off the mound today, flat ground today.
Mm.
So progress, right?
Right,
Progress. And to
right.
your point, I agree. I feel the same way on Joe Ross because he
Yeah,
pitched a lot
it's
last
sad,
year,
man.
but I mean he had his season end early. We don't know when he's going to be back, so I get it. Like I don't pencil in these spots yet, but you do have to say their name.
Right.
Guy,
Yeah, they're there. It's just hard
Mhm.
to and that kind of goes right to the national situation. Like if this were a team that had the idea of winning a division, right, this year of trying to go to the playoffs, then I think you and our tunes would be. I can tell you, our tune would be much different. We'd be like, all right, we cannot count on these guys, so you have to make sure you go out there and get somebody else. The idea, I think, for the Nats now, and then we're saying, yeah, should need a couple more signings, but like at the same time, we're saying, all right, if Will Harris isn't there for the 7th or 8th, Mason Thompson should maybe get that opportunity, right? That's a guy who's got an opportunity there to prove something, or maybe, like I mentioned, to Seth Romero or Tanner Rainey to see if he can get back on track. The way we talk about the opportunities, well, we talk about these guys missing time in the idea that there are more opportunities for other guys as opposed to a hole that must be filled. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Um, and that's why I mean I like the Cishek move going back to it, but
Yes.
and we do both agree that we need bullpen arms. But I am a little worried on who they get because I don't want them to just take 38 and 39-year-old guys out of the scrap
Right.
heap if it means keeping innings away from our Mason Thompsons and our Gabe
Right.
Kovacits and guys like that. So I do think they have to be very wise on who they target.
Right. And the question for me now is, look at that bullpen. Look, I'm not married to the idea of you have a set closer, but I think it feels like most managers are. Who is going to be the closer right now for the Nats, right? I would say the back end of the bullpen, in my opinion, consists of, let's even just count Will Harris now. Let's do four. Kyle Finnegan, right? Mason Thompson,
Hmm.
Steve Cishek now, and then you throw in, let's just throw in Will Harris and say he's there, right? Is that where you would go? Would you add somebody's name? Because I don't see a ninth inning guy. They tried Kyle Finnegan out last year, but it was pretty clear. Kyle Finnegan's a really good, like seventh, eighth inning guy.
7, 9, and
He doesn't
11.
belong in the ninth, and that's okay. That's totally fine for the circumstances which the Nats came upon Kyle Finnegan. He has been he's delivered more than
Mhm.
expectations, right? So what do you see though as a ninth inning guy, or do you think that guy has yet to be signed for the Nats?
I think they've yet to sign him because no one they've had can prove it. But a name we do have to mention again is Tanner Rainey because
Right.
after all his injuries and getting sent to AAA and coming back, he looked good the last 2 weeks of the season. Super small sample size, but we saw what he could do in 2020. He's a name to keep an eye on, especially if he's healthy. Because last year he had COVID to start the season, hurt to start the season, and he never got going. This year we're hoping Tanner Rainey's healthy to start. We'll see what he can give. A few other names I want to mention. Patrick Bailey, I believe, is the guy that picked up from
Mm,
off of waivers at the end of the season. He has some high heat. Maybe they want to try him tonight. I don't know if that'll work, but that's another in-house option they could try out. And then we'll see at spring training how far away some of the other guys they have. Matt Cronin, and then the relievers they got for the Red Sox trade for Schwarber, and then the
right.
Dodgers trade Carrillo and those guys. Like, there's a few other guys that might not be ready yet, but maybe they're not wanting to sign a closer because they view one of them as the future.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's that's. I think I was just thinking about the same thing while you were talking about that. It's like, all right, well, do you want to try those guys out? But I would try. I would try the guys who have been on the team before I try the young guys, right? I mean, you just don't
Mm-hmm.
want to throw a guy who's young into that situation, just have it not go well and the pressure get to him, right? So, I mean, maybe, like I know we just poo pooed it, but like maybe you do try Kyle Finnegan again. Tanner Rainey, I think, is the first one because, his confidence obviously was in a different spot, but like he's at a point now where it's kind of put up or shut up, right? At this point of his
Mm-hmm.
career. That the Nationals, he's a useful guy, but like, hey, they got to see if, what they got in him. And I'm not ready. I'm not ready to toss Mason Thompson in that spot yet. I'm not sure if you are either.
No.
I'm not ready. But look, that's not to say I didn't love what I saw from him last year.
No, I agree. I mean, for a guy that came in here, I think he did he make his MLB debut with the Nats, or he already made his appearance with the
He
Pod?
had made really just a one or two, I think, with
Okay,
the Padres. It was
so
very
for a
minimal.
guy with rarely any MLB experience and getting traded to a completely new team, right? Um, yeah, he did great for all the circumstances,
Yeah,
and I want to see more of him. That's for sure.
yeah. All right, let's take a quick break here, and we'll get to some other rumors that are flying around right now in Nats land. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. The NCAA tournament is about to start, my friends, so make sure you guys hit up BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. They got college basketball, they got pro basketball, they've got NHL, they've got football futures, baseball futures, Vegas casino games, and a whole lot more. So once again, head to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, so Max, just there's a variety of directions that we can go here. Um, the one that I guess we'll hit first, Anibal Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
So he threw a bullpen. This is what it was. That he threw a bullpen the other day, and
Hmm.
apparently the rumor was that like 10 teams got in contact with him. Um, you know, this is a guy that last time we saw him on the Nationals, it was much like John Lester, right? Where The age was trending one direction and still is. He's 38 years old. And the numbers were trending in the wrong direction as well. And that's the last time, 2020 was the last time that he pitched. So I want to get your thoughts on this and just the idea of him coming back. I know the Nationals are hurting for starters. I would like to see them maybe get somebody that they lock, get under a 2 or 3 year deal that maybe can rely on, because I think this year-to-year turnover is getting very difficult, especially with the Strasburg injury. So I know they got so much money tied up in Corbin and Strasburg, but still, I think maybe springing for a guy for 2 or 3 years while they try to bring the young guys along might not be the worst thing in the world. But what were your thoughts on the kind of Anibal Sanchez movement? The Nationals have seemed to engage him, but there's no formal word yet on whether or not he's going to be a National this season.
I mean, I had mixed emotions, man. From the get go, I was just like, no, no,
Right.
no, because I get our rotation's a mess. It's a shell of itself. It probably won't be what it was for a long time. But now it's about the future, right? And do you really want to take a guy who's at the end of his career, who did not have it in 2020, didn't even pitch last year? 2020, the Nats in 53 innings had a 6.62 ERA and a 5.46 FIP. And I get in 2019 on the World Series year, he started 0-6 before he bounced back. But, and I know we're bad, but like, we have young guys we want to try out. The Josiah Grays. You picked up Josh Rogers, right? And he looked
Yeah.
very good last year. And you want to see if he's part of the
Right. At least
future.
give him a shot. Yeah. At least give him a shot. Yeah.
Paulo Espino was serviceable. I'd rather have the numbers Espino put up with the Nats last year than struggle to watch Sanchez not have it anymore. And I like the guy. I don't want to see the guy go through what some of those veterans go through, where they keep thinking they have it and they don't, and they're afraid to just give it up. But I had it pointed out to me on Twitter today that, yeah, I mean, this would be a good deal for a rebuilding team, because you're not spending a lot of money. And if it does happen to work out, you can flip them at the deadline. And if it doesn't work out,
Hey,
you're
even
already
if it doesn't
bad.
work out, you can still do it,
Hmm.
right? John Lester. John
Yeah, I
Lester got
know.
moved to the deadline last year, right?
Lane Thomas, man.
I mean,
But
that's funny. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
so I get that perspective, but I don't know, especially if he's going to be taking innings from other people. And if Joe Ross is back, I'd rather watch him pitch. If Strasburg's healthy, I'd rather watch him pitch. Patrick Corbin, you have to pay him, and we already know at this point of his career, even after last year, he's still better than Sanchez. And if we get lucky, he could always go back. He's not going to fully regress to 2019, but he could be a 4.0 ERA guy, which you would take in a heartbeat. So no, I don't want to give Sanchez the innings if it's taking away from other guys that might have a chance to be part of the future.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you too. It's like, as long as he's not blocking anybody. But once again, the Nationals were so depleted at the end of last year. That's the one place that it has to go. I would say this: Josh Rogers definitely gets an opportunity, right? That's 110%. I guess you are going to toss Eric Fetty out there again this coming season, right? He's going to be definitely on there. We don't know Joe Ross. We don't know Steven Strasburg, right? So at this point in time, you're looking at a starting rotation of Corbin, Josiah Gray, Fetty, Espino, and Rogers. They definitely need one and maybe even two guys to fill it out. Now, the one good thing is, and I think this is the hope, is will we see Cade Cavalli in the majors by the end of the year? Right? I think that's something that
Yes.
some of us are hoping that is going to be the case and going to be starting. But still, you need some guys there to transition and make that happen, right? And at the
Mm-hmm.
deadline, if you move somebody, that's kind of maybe a natural progression, is that he comes up and takes that spot. So yeah, his numbers were trending one direction, and his age trending the wrong direction too. But according to Jesse Doherty from the Washington Post, said that the people who saw him yesterday, his fastball was low 90s, right? So that's not a bad place to
Nope.
be. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. And I think the one thing for all of us, people who weren't there to see the bullpen, is, all right, if you sign him, what does he look like in spring training, right? That's the big thing, is like, is the velocity actually there? Does this appear to be a guy that, all right, second time through the order, can we project that he can get dudes out, right? That's a big question, because the Nationals are probably going to be in a spot this year again, and look, they have to avoid this, where they overwork their bullpen. That was something that Dave Martinez really talked about a lot last year, Max, was how much that bullpen got dipped into. And look, the bullpen was bad, but it was also
Overworked.
exacerbated by the starters because those guys were, a lot of guys were getting deep into games. Corbin was not getting as deep into games as he should have. John Lester was not getting deep into games. They have to get guys like Eric Fetty out there sometimes. Even Joe Ross had some bad starts as well. They were having to get those guys, yank those guys earlier than they wanted to. That means you go into your bullpen sooner than you want to. And look, if it's going to be a lot of young pen arms, I don't want to keep putting extra stress on those guys who have not thrown that many innings before. That to me is something. So maybe Anibal is they need guys who can eat innings. That's really what they
Yep.
need is they need guys who can trust to eat those innings. I know those guys come at a bit more of a price sometimes, but trying this vet thing, like that was my big complaint about John Lester. Were the numbers always god awful horrible? No, they weren't like these astronomical. He had a couple bad outings, but like it was the problem was they couldn't trust him to keep going deeper into games because
Nope.
the numbers were going to be horrible. They were
Mhm.
going to be awful because he couldn't pitch because he was getting the third or fourth inning getting yanked. So that's the thing to me is like they need guys to eat innings. Not and I don't care if it's they have 5 or 6 runs in that 6 or 7 innings, but like can they get to six? Right? I don't think John Lester was getting to six very often last year.
Nope. I have two things. One, bearing injury, Cade Cavalli will make his debut next season
Mhm.
for the Nats. Book it. Two, they need an innings eater. I've wrote in a piece about him. His name is Zach Greinke.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I mentioned it before. Like that's a perfect guy to have and a good veteran presence as well. Somebody you just go in there and like he's not. It's not like a complete abject awful disaster. Also, the guy has got a lot of pedigree
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time, and it's just a good influence to have around. And so, yeah, I think Zach Greinke is somebody that definitely I could see here. I mean, that's the thing is like if we're gonna pick 38 year olds, I'd rather have Zach Greinke who threw
Mm-hmm.
171 innings last season than a John Lester or an Anibal Sanchez. You agree? Now, and look,
Agreed.
the
Oh,
price tag
100%.
the price tag on Greinke is going to be higher, yes, but
Yes.
still, he's 38, right? He's 38, and this is not going to be a long term thing. You just need him to hold down. I think the Nationals though would probably rather go cheaper, but the problem is, look, cheaper does not necessarily mean you're going to get results, and
Nope.
and that's the thing is that like we just mentioned, you might actually have to spend some more money so you don't kill your bullpen this year.
And they have tons of money now that the CBT has gone up even 20 million more. You have more money and flexibility to work with. And if they don't, and the only reason I wouldn't see the Nats sign Granke would be because he says no because he wants to contend, which is
Right.
understandable. Another guy to keep an eye on is Chris Archer. You're in a rebuild, right? See what he has left in the tank. See if you can get anything out of him. You have Hickey, the old pitching coach, who has been a whisper to tons of guys, right? Chris Archer would be I don't. Maybe he's not an innings eater. Maybe he gets hurt right away. But there's always that chance that you can get something out of him. Because I don't even know if he's 30 yet. Like he's still young.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that. All right. One more quick word from our sponsors here. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. You guys go to built.com today. It's built.com. Check out all the
Oh, he's
Built Bars
33.
available right now. You've got mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're delicious. Got all new flavors all the time. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. So the reports are out right now, Max, that Ehire Adrianza is going to be signing with the Nationals. This is somebody that we saw. My dog's going crazy right now. This is somebody that we saw on both the Nationals, or excuse me, on the Braves, part of that World Series run. A guy whose age is just somebody that they're going to bring in now, who gives them more opportunity. As my parents have come home, so the dog is so happy to see them. This is somebody that they can bring in that is a veteran because they don't really have a whole lot of veteran experience. Just 31 to be 32 years old. He had 247 to 327 on base, a 401 slugging percentage last year, and a 728 OPS with a 90 OPS plus. Drove in 28 runs. And so this is somebody that I think they'll be counting on just to they've got a few guys, in my opinion, with Hernandez, Escobar, maybe Adiel Hernandez. You can count him in there too. And now Adrianza, and maybe even I think maybe more likely a Michael Franco or a D Gordon. That these guys could do really well, and you can flip them, right? That's kind
Yes.
of what you're doing with these 1 year deals. Is all right. Can we turn these guys into rentals, which we then turn into assets, or Is it a guy like a Cesar Hernandez or a Adrianza, somebody who's young enough and plays well enough? You say, all right, maybe we can extend this guy for 2 years, right? 2 year contract or something, and they're with us moving forward. I think that's more likely we say a Josh Bell get that kind of treatment. Or maybe a Michael Franco. If things go, let's just say things go crazy south for Carter Keyboom at third base. Maybe you see it with Michael Franco, and then things goes well, and you get him for multiple years. I don't know. These are the low risk signings. These are the ones that can actually pay off in some unexpected ways.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And you and I talked a while ago about different type of guys, and he fits the same mold. I would have rather seen Iglesias, but he got signed yesterday by I want to say the Rockies, and we'll see what this guy has left in the tank. Right? Sometimes these guys who played for the NL East before, some of them played for the NL East before, come to Nats and put up good numbers out of nowhere. Maybe
Right.
he's got something to help his trade value. And I mean, you said it right. This is not, you're not signing this guy to be a starter. You're just going for depth. You're going for veteran experience and leadership. And so, yeah, there's no harm in the signing. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, these right. These are the ones that you approach a guy like this, and look, you bring all these guys in for camp, and you want them to push the young guys, right? I mean, these young guys, the Elaine Thomases of the world, the Carter Keybooms, the Andrew Stevensons, the Victor Robleses, Luis Garcias. All these guys need to be pushed. They absolutely need to be pushed. Sure, you're going to bring them along, but that's the one balance here, right? You and I complained ad nauseum about the way Asdrubal Cabrera was used as opposed to Carter Keyboom. That's all that I think the fans ask, is that we don't take away opportunities from the young guys. We
Mm-hmm.
just use these guys to push them and help make them better, as opposed to taking opportunities from them.
So I got some Josh Bell news per
Yeah.
Matt Wayrick of NBC Sports Washington. Mike Rizzo says the Nats have not approached Josh Bell about an extension and won't consider doing so until after agreeing on his salary for this season.
Right. Because I believe he's got arbitration, or at
Last year
least
of arbitration. I'm a
right.
little surprised by this because I mean, he's 29, and your
Right.
best first base prospect is Brandon Bosser, who you just drafted in the third round last year and struggled in single A. Bosser would bounce back 100%, but you don't have any other first baseman, and he hits very well behind Juan Soto, and he's your only good bat, not named Soto, that's
Steady
consistent.
veteran too, good
Mm-hmm.
guy, steady veteran, and did turn it on last year. Did have
Mm-hmm.
thought he had a pretty nice season after he came back from
From COVID.
he was red hot in spring training, then came back from COVID, and then I did rejoin the team. But yeah, I like that. That's somebody that I think you and I are a bit dismayed by that news, right? I think they should
Mm-hmm.
be approaching him about an extension, but I understand why. And then last guy I want to mention before we get out of here, Gerardo Parra. You had some news about that. If you want to share, he's around the team at least right now.
Yeah, he's a non-roster invite to spring training. So for the Baby Shark fans, Gerardo Parra will be at spring training for a tryout. For the people that are tired of Baby Shark song and are tired of the Nats holding on to the 2019 World Series because that era is over,
Right.
I apologize. I doubt he makes the roster only because of all the veterans they've brought for this situation, like the Mikael Francos and the D Gordons, I think they're better than him at this point in his career. He didn't
Yeah.
have a lot in the tank last year. If they want to sign up, and I don't even see if it's worth it. You don't use a spot on your 26-man roster just for leadership if he's not going to bring anything. Like I just don't see it. You could have another guy that you could give a trout for instead of someone that you know is not going to play. So I'm not truly excited for this. Great player. I'll thank you for 2019, but the Nats do need to move on at some point.
And one more piece, and I'm with you that 100%. So Mike Rizzo, it's funny that you and I are recording this right now, is meeting with the media. We'll have more from this later in the week. Mike Rizzo asked about Juan Soto, said that he's priority number one, and says that he's the face of the franchise, and also he might be the face of Major League Baseball. That's all pretty good, encouraging PR stuff to say. We'll see where negotiations go. All right, Max, that will do it for today's show. Where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
Check us out at Twitter at District on Deck, districtondeck.com. Tons of Nat stuff, especially now that the lockout is over. We have plenty of pieces coming out. Check me out on Twitter on Max Rayman. And dude, once again, thank you for having me on.
Always appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LO_Nationals. You can follow me at Josh Neighbors_. You can find the show wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. Max, talk to you next time, my friend.
Yes, sir.